So first I want to make a very brief description of two different schemes as far as leaves for parental leave, for the parental leave and the maternity and paternity leave are concerned. First, we have a quite generous maternity leave and paternity leave as far as the payment is concerned. However, there is already here a large, important gender gap because mothers have only 16 weeks, but it can be longer if they are breastfeeding. Paternity leave is paid with they receive the same payment as for maternity leave, but it's only 4 weeks. Now, if we turn to the parental leave, it is a very complex scheme. And I just want to mention that why it is so complex. In fact, because the state and the Social Security wanted to limit the cost and the public expenditure. As we know, the proportion of young children in France is higher than in Germany, for example. So they found some complex eligibility criteria and based on two principles. The basic benefit is only 460 euro per month. If the mother or the father does not work, if they work part-time, it will be less. So here I already want to mention a very important characteristic. Contrary to Germany and the Nordic countries, when the beneficiaries receive a certain amount of their percentage of their earnings, in France, it is a very low amount, the same one, for all the parents, and it is adapted to the fact if they work if they work part-time or stop working. But anyway, it is a very low amount. And I wanted to mention that because it is the main driver for gender and social inequalities. And I will very briefly explain why. So who is eligible, who not? The parents who are not eligible are those who did not work enough before the birth. At least they have to have worked 2 years before the birth. When they have the first child, 2 years before the birth. When they have 3 children, they have to have worked 2 years before the birth within the 5 years. So just I don't go further into the details because the most important is to consider that these restrictions are detrimental to parents with precarious and unstable jobs and with short-term contracts, for example. And of course, who are these people? The low-qualified parents, low-paid very often at the same time, and immigrants. So they cannot be eligible. The second one, please. The following one, yes. So what do we know about take-up rates? It is, anyway, difficult to assess the extent of windfall effects, free riding effects, and the actual amount of time fathers devote to their child during their parental leave. But to insist on the gender equality, it is very important to take into account that there is an enduring asymmetry in the rate of take-up of the parental leave scheme, with a large gender gap. 90, of course, with this low amount. Most of the beneficiaries, 97, are women. And the few fathers who take up the leave, they in fact work part-time, so they receive a very low amount of for the parental leave, attached to the parental leave. And it has a strong impact. I wanted also to underline this aspect on employer attitudes. Not in the public sector or in large companies where they have to comply anyway, but they don't, it's not a big issue for them. But in small and medium-sized companies, this parental leave scheme contributes to perpetuating gender inequalities in the labor market. Because in these small and medium-sized companies, and even sometimes in large companies, they are reluctant to hire women with the same level of qualification as a man, because they anticipate the fact that she will have a right to a parental leave which can be until the child reaches the age of 3. So indirectly, it is very, very detrimental to the mothers, not only at the level of hiring, but also for their career prospects. So the next one, thank you. So there are other social inequalities, not only gender, but social inequalities. The maternity leave, just to mention that, which is very, very important in France and where women are overrepresented. In the public sector, the leave is fully paid. In the private sector, even if some employers pay in full, small and medium-sized companies do not. So it results in a big divide between mothers working in the public sector and those working in small and medium-sized companies, in particular when they resume their job. It is much easier in large companies in the public sector they have the guarantee, also in the rest of the companies in small and medium size, but they will always try to find ways to discourage them to take up the leave, or at least to come back. Moreover, it's not only the low paid, but it's also the career-oriented women are concerned about these complex, the law, not only the law amount, but the restriction. Because mothers in well-paid jobs are often reluctant to take leave because they anticipate the detrimental effects it will have on their career prospects or perspective. So parents who are more likely to take up this right are the mothers who have a stable job with an open-ended contract, and mothers working in the public sector or large companies. So now we have the final description, but I would like also to say that those who are not eligible are numerous people, and especially the less qualified, the illegal workers, and those who have had unstable or precarious jobs. From my point of view, I think that in France, this kind of model of parental leave is a sort of poison chalice. And it is the reason why most of the mothers are very aware about that. So the take-up rate among mothers in France has decreased very much because they need to work. They don't want to be confronted with their with conflict or tensions at the enterprise, and there was a dramatic decrease in take-up rate, rate among mothers. So, in fact, when as far as the gender inequality is concerned, and even social inequalities, the good solution, if I can say, would be to significantly increase the amount of the benefit. But now, in the current situation, we have in France very, very strong budgetary constraints, which limit the room for maneuver in this domain. So as far as we have such a low amount, it's the number of parents who will take the parental leave would have taken it even if the amount is low. It will be a windfall effect, which is not bad in itself, but in fact it was not initially the objective of the state. So I mean, the problem in France is, this issue I could mention because it's important, is not, parental leave scheme is not high on the policy agenda. The most important are the supply of subsidized childcare arrangements. We have a higher percentage as most of the European countries, but mothers in France, most of them, are working, they have a job. So, in fact, they are more concerned about to have a childcare, a good and childcare, subsidized childcare in crèche, in kindergarten, and to have some tax cuts when they hire someone at home to look after the child when they are working. So it explains why the parental leave scheme is not a big issue, even among the population.